Tests. No one likes them. Test results are typically consequential and are often black and white. As such, they carry with them a weight that most people prefer not to bear. Because logically speaking, if we don't pass, we fail. But I've learned over the years that not all tests are created equal, and not all test administrators have the same grading criteria. A few years back, I took a test not realizing that class was in session. I had just been hired as a therapist at a local clinic and needed to pick up a couple items to give my new office that certain je ne sais quoi. That's French for lamps, I think. Now, I've always been a little more HGTV than ESPN, so a quick run to Hobby Lobby wasn't the worst errand in the world. I was just a little pressed for time, so the stop couldn't take long. But thankfully, I knew exactly what I needed. Or so I thought. I had just made my purchase of 2 distressed lamps, got $20 cash back, and was crossing the parking lot in the pouring rain when a voice called out from a few cars back. "Hey, do you have some money so I can get something from 7-Eleven? The man looked to be in his late 20s, and he also looked like he was in the market for something a little stronger than a Slurpee. "Shoot, sorry." My response was quick. Too quick. I knew it, he knew it, and the canned pseudo-sympathetic reply didn't help. You know the kind I'm talking about. The kind you give when you're unable to help a friend move because you have tickets to the home show, or a Seahawks game, depending on your persuasion. "Shoot, really wish I could." Shrug. "Sorry." Which even that would have been almost okay had I not but 2 minutes earlier asked for $20 cash back at the checkout. "All right, thanks anyways," the man replied. Now, I could have blamed my response on a lot of things. I was in a hurry, the guy looked a little high, or due to the fact that we were standing in the middle of a heavy downpour, I could have gone the Milli Vanilli route and blamed it on the rain. But to do so would have been intellectually dishonest, the worst of all the dishonests. And if I learned anything from Milli Vanilli, is that dishonesty, intellectual or otherwise, can come back to bite you. Back to bite you. Back to bite you. Back to... As I sat in my Jeep, the test continued with a significantly shorter question. "Really?" Now this question was of the still small voice variety. "What?" I replied as I removed my hood and started my engine. "You don't have any money?" Okay, in my defense, not sure giving him money would have been the smartest thing to do. "But did you listen to him?" "Yeah, I heard him. He asked for money, which he'll probably use only for you knows what." "But did you listen to him?" "What did he say?" "He said, 'Can I have some money?'" "What did he actually say?" Then, like a kid begrudgingly saying what he's sorry for, I answered, "Do you have some money? Initiate Eeyore-esque tone. So I can get something from 7-Eleven. The still small voice continued, "You didn't have to give him money. You know, you could have just bought him food, right? Does God ever call you out the same way you would call someone else out? Sort of annoying." "Yeah, okay, you're right, but he's probably long gone by now." "He's not." I turned off my engine and flipped on the hood of my raincoat. Yeah, I know. It wasn't difficult to track the man down. "Hey, you said you just wanted to get something from 7-Eleven? "Yeah." "Here, why don't I just put it on my card?" "Oh, like you'd use the cash that was in your pocket all along either." "Okay, great, thank you," the man said. The 7-Eleven was across the parking lot, so we walked over together. He told me how long he's been on the streets, recent hardships, and the last time he had a meal. I told him about my lamps. We entered the mini-mart, and I told him I'd wait at the register. The man grabbed a chocolate milk and then went to the case of hot dogs. "Hey, would it be alright if I grabbed a couple of these?" he asked. "Yeah, sure thing." He gave both hot dogs the works and brought them to the register. The cashier rang up the items and gave me the total. I slid my debit card out from my wallet. "You're not planning to pay with that, are you?" the clerk asked. It crossed my mind. "Cash only. Didn't you see the sign on the door?" I've never been a fan of rhetorical questions, let alone 2 in a row. Must have missed it. I thought for a second, because it only takes a second to dig a deeper hole. Instead of outing myself by using the 20 I've had this whole time, why don't I just run back to Hobby Lobby, buy something small, and pretend to get cash back? I flipped on my hood. I'm gonna get some cash. I'll be back in a second. Now, to make the ruse authentic, I ran across the parking lot and back into the craft store. I grabbed a bag of cheese nips, jumped in line, and waited. And waited. Apparently, every creative thought and aspiration in the greater Seattle area was coming to fruition at that same moment. A vortex of dioramas, vision boards, and home makeovers were making landfall at the corner of 100th and Evergreen. A veritable DIY nightmare. The line moved like rubber cement. Aisle 4 if you're curious. All the way to checkout. Just this for you? The cashier asked. Yeah, thanks. Just stopped in for some cheese nips, huh? Yeah, I really like craft store snacks. You know there's a 7-Eleven just over there. I took the receipt and crackers and flipped on my hood. You know, I think I'll head over there. I ran back through the rain, across the parking lot and into the 7-Eleven. Where'd he go? I asked the cashier. He's gone. I looked at the counter. What about the hot dogs? I threw them out. Why? Yeah, I can do rhetorical questions too. But before the clerk answered, the door beeped and the man entered the store. I didn't think you were coming back, he said to me. Yeah, sorry about that. I handed him the cheese nips. That really took longer than it should have. The man got another chocolate milk and reloaded 2 more hot dogs. I gave the cashier a 20, the same 20 that was in my wallet the entire time. And after taking my change, the man and I parted ways, but not before he let me pray for him. As I walked back to my Jeep, it sunk in. That really did take longer than it should have. I wonder if any of Jesus' disciples ever felt the same, that in hindsight, the lesson took longer to learn than it should have. I imagine at least one of them did. In the 6th chapter of John, we're presented with one of Jesus' more memorable miracles, the feeding of the 5,000. In the account, Jesus multiplies a young boy's lunch to feed thousands of hungry followers. But before Jesus turns his attention to the needs of thousands, he turned his attention to the needs of one, Philip. John 6:1-7 reads, After this, Jesus went away to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. And a large crowd was following him because they saw the signs that he was doing on the sick. Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. Now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was at hand. Lifting up his eyes then, and seeing that a large crowd was coming toward him, Jesus said to Philip, Where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat? He said this to test him, for he knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread would not be enough for each of them to get a little. The more I read the short exchange between Jesus and Philip, the more I love it. I can imagine Jesus was sitting between Philip and John on the hillside as thousands of people began filling the valley below. A few comments about the growing crowd were probably exchanged between them as they began assessing the situation. Now it's already clear that Jesus already knew the outcome. He knew what he would do, the text reads, and yet he asks Philip his opinion. Why? English theologian Charles Ellicott explains, This gives us a glimpse into the educational method of the great teacher. There is for him no difficulty. He of himself knows what he is about to do. But Philip had, we may think, been present at Cana of Galilee and had seen the wine multiplied to supply the needs of all. Other signs had spoken to the eye, and fuller teaching had spoken to the ear. How far had either spoken to the spirit? He had felt the divine presence in separate instances. Had he realized it as a law of life holding for every need that could arise? The student has learned individual facts, but has he laid hold of the principle which underlies them? The one is from without and depends upon the teacher. The other is from within and is the true education of the man himself. He has been taught. He is now to be examined. This makes sense. It's obvious that an all-knowing, all-powerful God doesn't need help knowing what to do or how to do it. So it's not for his benefit or need. It's for Philip's benefit and ours. God doesn't need our help, but he wants to include us in his plans and work. But why test Philip at that moment? The book of Luke gives us some insight. In Luke, the account of Jesus feeding the 5,000 begins this way. On their return, the apostles told him all that they had done, and he took them and withdrew to a part of the town called Bethesda. When the crowds learned it, they followed him, and he welcomed them, and he spoke to them of the kingdom of God and cured those who had need of healing. Now, upon the return, from what? Glad you asked. From being sent out 2 by 2 to heal the sick, cast out demons, and proclaim the kingdom of God with these explicit instructions. Take nothing for your journey, no staff, nor bag, nor bread, nor money, and do not have 2 tunics. So Philip had just returned from a faith-laden mission, some say upwards of 6 months, one where he was to bring nothing but the clothes on his back and the sandals on his feet. No food, no money, nothing. I would argue that Philip had experienced the divine spirit as the law of life, holding for every need that could arise, at least for 6 months. It's like Jesus was asking upon his return, "So, what did you learn?" Unfortunately, the miracles Philip experienced and the provisions he received was in short time a distant memory. By all accounts, it looks as though Philip failed this particular test. I know the feeling. And interestingly, it looks as though this isn't the last test that Philip came up a little bit short. Later in the book of John, Jesus and Philip have another exchange, highlighting once again their teacher-student relationship. John 14:7-11 reads, "If you had known me, you would have known my Father also. From now on you do know him and have seen him." Philip said to him, "Lord, show us the Father, and it is enough for us." Jesus said to him, "Have I been with you so long, and you still do not know me, Philip? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, 'Show us the Father'? Do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words that I say to you, I do not speak on my own authority, but the Father who dwells in me does his works. Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father is in me, or else believe on account of the works themselves." In total, Philip is highlighted roughly 4 times in the book of John, and half the times it looks as though he's failing tests. Thankfully for him, and us, as the saying goes, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And while it looks as though Christ's teachings took a while to absorb, Philip eventually appears qualified, as we later see in Acts 8, where he heeds the voice of God to care for the needs of an Ethiopian official. St. Augustine once said, "What does love look like? It has the hands to help others, it has the feet to hasten to the poor and needy, it has the eyes to see misery and want, it has the ears to hear the sighs and sorrows of men. That is what love looks like." But without recognition of need, eyes to see, there will be no opportunity for hands to help, feet to hasten, ears to hear, or hot dogs to buy. If I were in Philip's sandals at the feeding of the 5,000, I probably would have responded the same. I had a problem feeding just one person, let alone 5,000. I'm so grateful God qualifies the called. An old Yiddish proverb states, "Man plans, God laughs." That day in the Hobby Lobby parking lot, I planned and God laughed. And not maliciously, he just had something much better in mind. Some of the best lessons I've learned have been taught outside the classroom. That day at 7-Eleven was no exception. Between buying my lamps and the impromptu Messianic masterclass, I walked away a little more enlightened, with a reminder of purpose to love and a change in perspective to see. And all for the price of some Mini-Mart food. I feel fortunate. Such change can come at a much higher cost. Me? I pay next to nothing. I got change for a 20.